Peter sat on the porch of his grandfather's house, staring out at the sunset. The vibrant colors in the sky did little to lift his spirits. He was 25 years old, but he felt like the world had already beaten him down. Lost opportunities, mistakes, and regrets weighed heavily on him. He couldn't stop thinking about what he should have done differently. The more he dwelled on his past, the more trapped he felt. His grandfather, an old man in his 70s, noticed Peter's sullen demeanor. With a kind smile, the grandfather sat down beside him. His hands were weathered, like the wood of the porch, but they were still strong and steady, much like his wisdom. "What's on your mind, Peter?" his grandfather asked softly. Peter hesitated, not sure where to begin. "I just keep thinking about the past, Grandpa. I made so many mistakes, things I can't undo. It feels like I'll never get ahead because of what's behind me." His grandfather nodded, as if he understood completely. "Ah, the past. It has a way of gripping us, doesn't it? It's like carrying a heavy bag on your back. The more you think about it, the heavier it gets." Peter glanced at his grandfather, curious. "How do you let it go, then?" The old man smiled gently. "Let me tell you a story. You know, when I was your age, I went through something similar." Peter shifted in his seat, intrigued. His grandfather rarely talked about his own past. "When I was 25, I had big dreams," the grandfather began. "I wanted to start a small business in town. I worked hard for years, saving up money and planning every detail. But when the time came, the business failed. I lost everything. For a long time after that, I couldn't stop thinking about what I had done wrong. I replayed every mistake in my head, over and over. It was like a broken record." Peter nodded, understanding the feeling too well. "One day," his grandfather continued, "I went for a walk in the woods to clear my head. I came across a large boulder. It was blocking the path, and I couldn't go around it. I tried pushing it, but it was too heavy. No matter how much I pushed, it wouldn't budge." He paused for a moment, his eyes twinkling as if reliving the memory. "That's when it hit me," he said. "The boulder was like my past. I could push against it all I wanted, but I couldn't change it. It was too big, too solid. Instead of exhausting myself trying to move it, I realized I had to walk a different path. I had to let the boulder stay where it was and move forward without it." Peter leaned forward, absorbed by the analogy. "So what did you do?" "I took a deep breath," his grandfather said with a chuckle, "and I walked back the way I came, found a new path, and kept moving forward. And guess what? Not long after, I found a better opportunity. I started a small repair shop, and it took off. That wouldn't have happened if I had stayed there, stuck, trying to move that boulder." Peter thought about this for a moment. "But what if I can't find a new path? What if I'm just stuck forever?" His grandfather shook his head. "That's the thing about life, Peter. There are always new paths, but you won't see them if you're staring at the boulder behind you. The more you focus on the past, the less you notice the opportunities right in front of you." He reached over and patted Peter's shoulder. "Think of it like this. Imagine driving a car. If you spend all your time looking in the rearview mirror, you'll crash, right? You can glance back every once in a while to learn from what's behind you, but if you want to get anywhere, you need to keep your eyes on the road ahead." Peter nodded. The analogy made perfect sense to him. "But what if I made mistakes that I can't fix?" "You've got to remember, Peter," his grandfather said, "the past is like a book you've already read. You can't rewrite the chapters that are already written. But the book isn't finished yet. You're still writing new chapters. What you do today and tomorrow is what matters now. Mistakes are part of life, but they don't define the whole story." Peter felt a flicker of hope. For so long, he had been stuck in the past, but now he realized that the future was still open. He didn't have to carry the weight of his past failures forever. "I've wasted so much time already," Peter said, his voice soft. His grandfather shook his head again, smiling kindly. "Time isn't wasted if you learn something from it. Every setback, every mistake, it teaches you something. You just have to make sure that you're learning and moving forward, not standing still." Peter looked at his grandfather, who had lived through so many experiences and still managed to move forward. If he could do it, So could Peter. "I guess you're right," Peter said, his spirits lifting slightly. His grandfather leaned back in his chair, his eyes gazing at the horizon. "Peter, life is too short to keep carrying around the past like it's an anchor. You've got to let it go. If you do, you'll find that the future holds more than you ever thought possible. And when you finally let go of yesterday, you'll have both hands free to grab hold of what's coming tomorrow." Peter sat there, thinking about his grandfather's words. For the first time in a long time, he felt lighter, as if a heavy weight had been lifted from his shoulders. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a soft glow across the sky. Peter stood up, feeling a new sense of purpose. The past would no longer hold him back. "Thanks, Grandpa," Peter said, smiling. His grandfather grinned. "Anytime, Peter. Just remember, don't get stuck in the past. The best is yet to come." As Peter walked away, he realized that the road ahead, once clouded by regrets, was now wide open, full of possibilities. And for the first time in a long time, he was ready to face it.